Baby Channel. Today, we want to talk about protesting and my opinions on how effective it is. I think the left is really, really bad at protesting, man. I mean, look at the George Floyd situation. They didn't even get that George Floyd bill that they wanted. I mean, what did they really benefit from all of the protesting that they did? I admire people that are willing to go out and actually take action rather than just sitting at home and complaining. But I don't know, the tactics have just really been really bad, and it does a big disservice because people are watching this, right? And they're seeing all of the actions that are being taken, and they're seeing the lack of results, and that's going to make it harder to recruit people in the future for any type of revolutionary activity that you may want to take on, right? You need a proof of concept. Now, ironically, Puerto Rico has a bit of a proof of concept, but I don't know, it's weird. In this country, somehow, no matter who does the thing that people claim can't be done, we still won't accept that it actually is possible, even if it's part of our own country, right? Puerto Rico, part of this country, and they put so much pressure on their government that they actually got somebody to step down as a result. But for some reason, every time you try to talk to people in this country about getting a similar result, like let's get all these corrupt people out of the Democratic Party, let's get Pelosi out of there, you know, there's always excuses and how it can't be done. And that's within our own territory, right? Much less if it's other countries, then it's yeah, that won't work here. Look at this deer over here. Somehow it you know, it can work somewhere else, but somehow our country is different. You know, we've got a different, our population is different, or our culture is different, or the Constitution. There's always an excuse. Everybody can do it but us, right? Even Puerto Rico can do it, but we always have an excuse. But here's the problem that I see, the main problem that I see with protesting that I see happening on the left. In my view, just getting out on the street and saying the same stuff over and over again with your signs has a limited benefit that you can achieve from doing this. Now, the main thing that you're doing there is you're getting the word out, you're getting exposure, you're getting people to, look at this, more deer. You're getting more people to be aware of whatever the issue is that you're trying to push out there, right? However, the problem with that is the main benefit that you're going to get with getting the word out there is you get people that are sympathetic to your cause who may join your cause, but then that's just more numbers of people out in the street who are, you know, saying the phrases, holding the signs up, no justice, no peace, whatever it is. Or if it's a Black Lives Matter thing, you know, Black Lives Matter over and over again. Now, you can get, I mean, okay, I guess fact is, if you do get enough people out there, it does become a very powerful tool. I mean, if we had, let's say, 10 million people in the streets right now protesting about something, I think that's a lot of power. But the reason that's a lot of power is because of the tactic that I think is actually more effective, that I think it's a shame that isn't really used by a lot of these folks who go out there and protest, which is, in order for things to change, you need government to take action, right? You need legislation. And that comes from Congress, right? Congress lives in a bubble. These are elites. They can easily ignore you. You know, you can be in the streets for months and months and months. And most of these people, they don't have to look at it. They don't have to care about it. I mean, I know some people try to go to their homes, but even that, like, that's not, I don't think anyone was like at Pelosi's house for like 3 months, you know? And even if you did do that, she's probably got multiple homes. She's probably not even there, right? So you're protesting at her house and she's not even there. She's not even looking at your stuff. She's not looking at it on the news. She's in her own little bubble, you know, thinking that she's perfectly shielded. She doesn't have to worry about listening to you guys. You guys don't matter because ultimately, when the election time comes, she can get enough of you guys to come out and vote to keep her in power, right? So she's not really worried about all of that. Now, I think some of you need to reevaluate your thoughts in terms of what these elections mean. Like some of you may think, how are they going to win elections like this? But what you call winning is not quite what they call winning, right? They don't need to actually win the election to win. Like for example, they're probably going to lose big time in the next election, the 22 midterm, 2024. But how is that going to affect AOC? She's still going to be making 180,000 plus. All these other Democrats are still going to be in power. Anybody that's in deep blue, they're still going to be doing their backdoor deals and accumulating more and more millions of dollars. So what do they care about? Oh, they don't have the White House or they're in a minority. In fact, being in a minority is a good thing because that's a vacation, man. You get to make all this money, still make all your money moves in the background, millions of dollars, backroom deals. You still get to do all of that, but you don't have to do any work because once you're in a minority, you can't do anything. I mean, the Republicans have been able to control things even when they're in a minority. So when they're in a minority, the Democrats just, because they're not really serious, so the Republicans are able to do all kinds of different tricks to block whatever they're trying to do. So if the Republicans are actually in power, then that means the Democrats legitimately have a serious problem in terms of being able to do anything. So they've got a good excuse. So what you can do once you're in a minority is you can actually start proposing some really nice bills that would really do a lot of great things to excite your base, knowing that you won't have to actually deliver because the stuff that's good for your base is not good for your donors, which is the big problem, right? So you want to propose stuff that'll animate your base, but actually implementing them is problematic to the money. But that's easy to deal with when the Republicans are in power because you have a great excuse about why you're not implementing the stuff that you're talking about, right? So I can put together a really nice bill. We're gonna tax the rich 40% or whatever it is, 90%, whatever it is, just whatever your base wants. You can put it on, you can vote on it, but it's not going anywhere, man. So that's easy. So you don't have to even be that thoughtful. Just look at whatever's really popular with your voting base and just put it out there and then watch the Republicans destroy it. And then you can just say, hey guys, well, we tried, right? That's how the scam works. So here's the deal. The most important thing, ultimately, to be successful is you need pressure on Congress, which would lead to them taking action, right? How do you get there? You need demands, and there must be consequences if those demands aren't met. Like, that is a fundamental concept, I think, that is missing from a lot of left-wing activism, right? If you can get them animated enough based on something visceral like a George Floyd situation, that's something that I can get them to sort of wake up and want to take action, right? It's the emotions that gets them out there, right? But if you can, in that moment, have them making demands of, what they want changed, and also making threats of what's going to happen if those demands are not met, that's when you've actually started to get serious. But until you're doing something like that, you're really spinning your wheels, man. Because again, what is the motivation of these politicians to take you seriously, right? Especially when we talk about the Democratic Party. They don't need to actually win elections, and their base is easy to be fair-mongered in terms of you don't want that scary, evil next guy. Now, the same thing happens in the Republican Party, but we're talking about Democratic Party right now. So all you need to do, you need a nice bad guy like Trump, which he is very problematic. So he's actually perfect. And, your base can be very disappointed in you, not really delivering. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, when it comes down to election time, they're going to be afraid of letting the other guy win, and enough of them are going to come out that you'll be able to either win or you won't lose by too much to where it matters, right? And that's the way the scam works. So what threatens that? First of all, the only thing that they care about is money and power. That's the only thing that they respond to. You being in the streets is not a threat to them in terms of money and power. Now, it depends on what you're doing in the streets, but just generally being in the streets and yelling stuff, that's not really a big threat to their money and power. So therefore, it's not something they're going to really pay that much attention to. So what is a threat? What is a threat to them? Well, losing the election is not that big of a deal, but it depends on the margins, right? You don't want to lose by too much, because then what happens is it can take you a very long time to get back in power. What they do not want is for the Republicans to be in power for 2, 3, 4, 5 terms like that. They don't want to. They want a nice little sort of pendulum back and forth, right? If you threaten to keep them out of power for too long by making them lose by too much, that's where it's a problem. That's where they need to actually start listening to you. So, So what you need is, you need very specific demands of what the Democrats need to do in order to get your votes. So you need a massive amount of people that are saying, these are our expectations of what we want the Democrats to do, and if they don't deliver, we're not going to vote. So, first of all, them losing where it's a very specific threat that was made, like they were told, we're not going to come out if you don't do this, and then they don't do it and then they lose, that has more significance than them just losing. If they just lose, it's kind of like, they have all kinds of excuses and whatever. It needs to be very, very clear that the reason that they lost is because they failed to deliver what they promised. So we need a very, very large group of people speaking together, saying these are our demands. If they're not met, we're not going to vote. And when they're not met, they need to be very loud. Okay, Democrats didn't do it, so we are not coming out to the polls, and you need to go ahead and promote and encourage others to join you as well, and let them see the polls being really, really bad and being affected by your movement. That is the time, that is the only time at which they will care anything about what you have to say, right? And until you're willing to do something like that, I just think there's going to be limited benefits of what you're doing. I mean, in general, outside of these types of movements, whenever you're voting, you should always be voting with demands, and there should always be a threat of what's going to happen if it's not delivered. Right now, people keep giving the Democrats votes for free, right? Democrats don't have to earn their votes. They get in power, they don't deliver anything. Next election, the same people keep voting for them and voting for them and voting for them. And then you got some other group of morons that will actually decide, hey, I keep voting and you're not delivering, so I'm going to vote for the other party, which is not going to do anything for them either. It's just really, really absurd. It's just like people who notice how dishonest mainstream media is, liberal media, MSNBC, CNN, and then they'll go and they'll turn to even more dishonest media like Tim Pool, Blaze TV. It's just a really, really crazy thing that I've noticed that a lot of Americans do, where they realize how bad something is, and then they run right into the arms of something else that's equally as bad or even worse, and then they don't recognize that. It's like they keep making the same mistakes, the same blindness that led them to believe in a certain form of media for so many years, not realizing they're being lied to. That same weakness allows them to go and then consume another form of really dishonest media for years, not realizing that. It's really bizarre. It's like we don't really learn from our mistakes for some reason.